is the Cross-Site Podcast. I am Bryant, your host, and this evening or this episode, we have Danny Guzman who'll be joining us, and we'll be discussing the topic of movies from a Christian worldview, from a Christian perspective. Roger Ebert, some of you are probably familiar with him. He said, "No good movie is too long, and no bad movie is short enough." Ain't that the truth, Danny?
Yes,
Um,
indeed.
Yes, indeed. And so what we're gonna do is we're basically I'm just gonna ask Danny a few questions, and we'll discuss this topic. We'll unpack it a little bit. So you ready for this, Danny?
Oh yeah, excited for
Oh,
it. Thanks for inviting me.
yes, sir. Yeah, thank you for joining me on this episode. And just for whoever's listening, just want you to know that this won't be the first time. Lord willing, we'll be able to have Danny on many other occasions to discuss other topics. But I would also like to discuss movies in particular with him and hear his thoughts and perspective on that. Uh, Danny, tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into the topic.
Sure. I'm 37 years old. I am married with my high school sweetheart. Have two wonderful children, a boy who's 16 years of age and a daughter who's 14. I've been working as a Chicago police officer for 13 years, going on 14 this June. Grew up in the Chicagoland area, specifically grew up at Logan Square from the age of 6. Prior to that, I lived in Puerto Rico with my family. But when we landed here, we were set to Logan Square, and you could say that my movie life started
Nice.
kind of close to the proximity of the theater near me at Logan Square, which is the Logan Square Theater.
Classic theater.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's funny
was-
because, sorry, let me just throw this in there. It's funny because I lived in Logan Square for some time, and I used to live, I don't know if that restaurant's still there, but it's like a Mexican restaurant now there that's really close to the Logan Theater. I used to live like right above that restaurant. So Logan Theater was like my theater also
Oh
going
man,
to as a
right.
little kid. Yeah. Too bad we didn't cross paths. I don't know.
Who knows? We might have. We just didn't notice. Probably we were too engulfed in whatever movie we were watching.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Yeah, you were saying?
Yeah. No. So one of the first things that we used to go to with my dad was the local theater. He he worked night shift, and then he would be off on Saturdays and Sundays. And one of the regular things he did once he got established at work was he would take me and my two older brothers to the local theater, to the Logan Square Theater, every Saturday, every other Saturday, not every Saturday, but a lot of Saturdays where I can pretty much remember going to the Logan Square Theater. If he didn't take us, then he would give us each an allowance to go all together to the theater. So that was like my first fond memories of going to the theater, being in a dark room with a bunch of people all watching the same thing.
Nice. Do you just interesting. I wonder if do you remember all the movies you went to with your dad?
I don't, but I have a pretty good recollection of what I've
Uh,
seen. I have a pretty good memory, so I tend to recall a lot of the films that I saw. I think the very first film I saw at the Logan Theater was Bloodsport, which is
okay.
not an appropriate film for a 6-year-old. But I do
Wow.
but I do remember seeing Van Damme on the big screen early on, and I think
Nice.
that's one of my first ones, followed by like Rambo 3
Wow.
and so on. It just carries on to a bunch of films that my dad wanted to see pretty much, and
Basically.
he counted it as bonding time. And to this day, I still see it that way, even though probably his filter was a little off.
Sure. Yeah, that's good, man. What so after growing up, you did that with your dad, but what have you done on your own when it comes to like the movies, going to the theater, your
Yeah,
family and movies, etc.?
for sure. Yeah, no. Well, as I said, that was the start of it. Of course, that was my hobby with my dad and with my brothers, and you could say that we all, me and my my two brothers, all have something that gravitated us to film. I have one brother, my oldest brother. He collects like every film that comes out often. He buys them. He doesn't even watch them at first. He buys them without even watching them, which is something that my dad used to do.
Mm,
So he has like a whole room that's pretty much dedicated to collecting films, and I think he took that from my dad. My middle brother actually he moonlights as an actor. He's trying. He's a struggling actor. So he does stunts. and acts, and
Oh
he's been
wow.
in a few things here and there. He actually came out in a tiny little part in a remake of this film called Death Wish, which just came out like a few years back with Bruce Willis.
Yeah, yeah.
So he plays a thug in it, and he gets to beat up Bruce Willis and say a few lines.
Oh wow, look at
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And as for me, somehow um, the Lord opened up a channel through the police department, and I met years back. I met a guy who has some kind of media company, media website that his job is to pretty much promote films that the production companies give him to promote. And the aspect of his website is mostly Latino. So these production companies wanted to hit the demographic of the Latin culture in Chicago and see, like, does this film resonate with Hispanics, pretty much. So what they do for what he does for them, he gets the crowd there to go that's mostly Hispanic, maybe like 80%, and then 20% can be anything else. And they do, like, quick feedback for the films that are coming out to see if it would be good to place in that theater. Does it sell well in that community? So he had this growing little business doing that, and he had a lot of foot traffic on his website. And he thought, you know what, I'm doing these film screenings and I have a lot of foot traffic. I should beef up my website by having like a film critic. So we crossed paths somehow one day when we were at work. We were working together and we had nothing in common, but somehow film came out during our tour of duty. And he started hearing me talk and stuff, and he's like, man, you really like film a lot. Like, yeah, stuff. And then we had a few more conversations throughout the coming months, and he asked me, would you like to be a film critic for my website? Of course, it'll be pro bono. I can't pay you, but you get to watch films weeks in advance before they come out, and you'll be able to write about it and build your portfolio up if this is something that you would like to do. And it's like for some time I kind of fantasized it's just a little bit about being a film critic, thinking, man, that's a good gig. You get paid to watch films, and so I thought, that might be nice. So I thought, okay, why not? Let me try this out. So I got to be his film critic for his website for about 2 years. Got to do a handful of interviews with a few actors. By a handful, I literally mean less than 5. But it was
Can you
cool.
mention some of them, or who they were?
Yeah. One of the last one I did was for the cast of Super Troopers 2. I got to talk to all of them. For Super Troopers 2, they had a red carpet thing in Chicago and in downtown, and I was able to go there and pretty much represent his website and talk to the director and all the actors. One other person I got to do for like a 3-question thing real quick on a red carpet was Halle Berry for a film that she produced with her production company.
What was the name of that movie?
You know what? It's terrible. I know that the premise, I forget the title, but it was where her child gets kidnapped.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it right now and stuff. But yeah, that's one that I got to do for. And then my very first interview was for a Denzel Washington film that he directed and that he starred in, called Fences, which is a playwright by August Wilson. And didn't get to interview him, but I got to interview his buddy in the film who plays like his coworker and his son. And that was pretty cool. And then the last person that I did get to go ahead and interview, but it was by phone, was the actor. And see, this is terrible that his name I don't recall right now, but he was in The Predator, the most recent Predator. He plays the lead character, and he's also the narrator in the show Narcos, and he also stars in Narcos as one of the detectives who's trying to take down Pablo Escobar.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good, man. That's good. I'm sure your dad will be proud of you. I mean, I'm sure he is, or he was, regardless. But be
Yeah,
proud
yeah,
to know that you got a little bit into the film side of
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
cool,
so.
man. Yeah, so tell me, let's dig into this a little bit more. And uh, why do we watch movies? Why do we watch movies?
Well, I'll tell you why I watch movies, and then we can go into why we watch why I think people watch movies.
Yes, sir.
I watch movies because I just love stories. I
Mm,
love whether they're stories of joy or real life stories, biopics. It's just I gravitate to hearing a good story.
mm,
It's of course a way to escape from what's going on, but
yep.
that's not the reason why I personally do it. I just enjoy hearing a good story, whether it's a conversation with someone such as yourself, or whether it's reading a book. But I think that as people, we love storytelling. We gravitate to it. I think we were we had that that desire within us. I think we were just ingrained with wanting to know more.
Yeah, that's good, man. It reminds me of I think Plato said this. He said that those who tell stories rule society.
Mm,
So there's power in storytelling, and good stories, they move us. They can even help transform us. They have a huge impact on us. And I think you're right. I think we all love stories deep down inside. We crave stories. We love stories. We even see our lives as a story and
yes.
everything in it. And I think movies do a great job of just they're visual stories. Basically, it's the art of story, just in cinema, using film, using all kinds of artistry and technology to portray a story in a unique way, that before people didn't really have access to, although that we did have theater and people could
Hmm.
act and so forth, but just the uniqueness of going to the cinema, to the theater now. um, yeah, that's a good point. Entertainment is a big part of it. Escapism to some degree, I'm sure. I know I've seen some movies for that recent.
Sure.
Like I really enjoy superhero movies. There's a little escapism in that,
Yeah, for sure.
or sci-fi and the like. And of course, some for just mere entertainment. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just something about hearing or seeing a good story being told, and I think that's huge. And I think you hit it right on the money.
Yeah, when you mention escapism, one thing that comes to mind, like I told you, I don't feel like I do it to escape, but I'll tell you one thing that I don't like to watch often, and it's I think because of my job, I don't like to watch cop films, and it's
Mm,
not just because I don't want to because I want to critique it because they're not doing it right, but it's just because I don't want to be back at work in a sense.
yeah.
So I don't often gravitate to crime films or police films. Though I do watch them, and, like whenever I like have someone that maybe wants to watch it with me or stuff. But for the most part, that's not uh, my coffee of choice. It's not what I choose to watch to perk me up.
What kind of movies do you gravitate towards to then?
I do like character stories, like
Okay.
uplifting character stories.
Okay.
So anything that has heart to it, but not overly hokey, not overly cheesy. Cheese is okay, just to an extent. When you can pull off a little genuineness with just corniness, it's okay, but it's a fine line. So
Yeah.
I tend to gravitate to heartfelt stories, and I'm not saying like Hallmark stories. I'm saying something that has some good writing and where the character grows throughout it and has an uplifting message, or has something with genuine heart to tell. To let you leave the theater, leave your screen with like, wow, that was pretty good. That was pretty sweet. That's there's someone who has like a redeeming character that you want to emulate in some way. I think that gravitates for me. That attracts me to that film.
Yeah, that's good, man. Yeah, some of my favorite things in movies is character development. Like you pointed out, that's huge. And yeah, because you can have good visual effects, good action, even some good soundtracks, some comedy, a variety of great scenery, cinematography, and the like. But you gotta have some good character development. If not, like a lot of that is just like extra fluff. It's just like
Exactly.
decorations. And they season the movie for sure, but I do think character development, having some good acting is key to a good movie and good stories in general.
Yeah, and but it's as you know, it's people have different palettes. Certain
Yep.
guys I know that I can't throw them a character film to watch because I'm like, what is this junk? This is too slow paced. This is not what I wanted to see.
Yep.
So you kind of have to know what you're pretty much recommending someone based on their genre of choice. Some people tend to ask me, "What's your favorite movie?" And that's a real loaded question. You
I
can
was
tell
going to
me.
ask you that question.
that's
On
that's a
purpose.
co- that's a common question that I think people tend to ask, and I don't have a favorite movie. I have a favorite
Yep.
movie. I have like favorite films that fall into certain genres.
Yeah, that's good.
But to say that I have a favorite film per se, no, not even a favorite actor. I have certain actors that I do enjoy very much, and I see that a lot of their work I've enjoyed. But I
What
wouldn't.
could you list some?
Yeah, sure. The common one that I grew up with, and I don't know if this is also the fact that I grew up with this actor, not like he's my age, but that I grew up seeing like most of his films. So I kind of have a bias for him. Is Tom Hanks.
Okay.
I saw everything as a kid that Tom Hanks did. I saw Splash. I saw The Burbs. I saw Big. I saw Philadelphia. I saw Castaway. Forrest Gump. You name it. The only thing I haven't seen from him is his TV show called Bosom Buddies, because that was way way before my time and stuff. And back then I wouldn't watch like a TV show per se. But he's one that resonates for me. There's Matt Damon. I love Matt Damon. I love Leonardo DiCaprio, of course. I love Joaquin Phoenix. But there's plenty of them that I can name off and stuff. That there's something there's a film in each one that I could say, man, that's the film that hit home for me with him, where I'm like, this guy's a great actor,
And it's interesting because like the guys you mentioned, they are all great actors and they've all done a variety of different films. They're not just like, this is the only type of genre I do. They've done like different genres. They've been in different roles. And you're able to see the spectrum of their acting ability and skill. So like, that's good.
Like with Tom Hanks, you would think, if you saw his early career, you would think this guy's a comedian.
Yeah.
Like all he does is comedies. But then, like that's not what he's known for now. Like if you see his body of work, that's not what you would encompass as like, oh yeah, this guy's a comedic actor. No, he can do comedy, and that's how he started it. But he's known more for a character actor who does a lot of dramas.
Good. Let me ask you this: what can we as Christians learn from movies? What can we learn from movies?
Well, I think there's a lot to be learned from film that you don't want to emulate. That's for sure. There's more. There's definitely, I feel, more bad than good in film, since there's such a large quantity of film, and a lot of it doesn't have a moral compass involved in it. A lot of it, there's a lot of dynamic that comes more from a business standpoint for like Hollywood and all that stuff, where it's about money making and what sells as entertainment. And often entertainment doesn't mean godliness. It often means ungodliness for the time. So there's definitely a meaning to most films, but there's not a meaning to all films. I feel that some films are just unethical in ways that there's nothing edifying to learn from them when it comes to Christians in film. And I've had to learn that the hard way in a sense, because I feel like it took me some time as a Christian early on to realize that, hey, I can't compartmentalize my love for film with my love for God. And there's something that I have to I can't have both. I can't have both if I love, like there's things that I just can't take back after I watch it. You can't unspill milk in a sense, so something for sure is be be proactive as to what you watch, what you know. There's such a finite amount of time here that we have on Earth. You don't want to waste it.
Yeah.
Seeing things that just don't help you. It's okay to watch film. Of course, I love film, but
Sure.
but it's a different kind of love. That's not the love that there's no way to compare that love to the love that I must have for God, for my creator and stuff, you know.
How should Christians watch movies? And I guess speaking from as it relates to discernment, what would you recommend? What would you encourage? Just people in general, but Christians in particular. How should they watch movies, knowing that sometimes they lack a moral compass, or it's just mere propaganda to instill or to sow or to promote a particular ungodly value or whatever it is? What do you recommend for Christians to learn how to discern these stories that they're seeing in the
Sure.
theater?
You know what, I often say, look, you know, do some research before you go blind to a film.
Okay.
Find out what find out the synopsis, find out what the director has made in the past, what the actors have made. You know, if given the time, if you have the time to where you want to make sure that you're filtering something to see if and I'm not saying as far as in, you know, like how vulgar it is. What does it have? Violence ratings. There's that too. There's
Sure.
tons of websites that can give you almost like not a parental guidance, but yeah, but kind of like a guidance as to how much bias does this have, what scenes are there, because you know my threshold of what I allow to filter through might not be the same for you, right?
Yeah.
You may have a different threshold of what you allow in, and vice versa, and also of course know who your whole audience is with. Of course, am I watching this with just my wife, which is one thing, compared to am I watching this next to my children, which is another.
Or by yourself.
Or by myself, of course. Yeah. So you know, like that's ways that I go about it. Of course, I see a preview. Of course, you know, which is the propaganda for the film. But of course, it lets you know a quick bit of, hey, do I want to look into this? So that's probably the first route that I go. I go with the preview first to see if it's something that I even want to go ahead and research and see if it's worthwhile. Then I often will wait some time and see if I can find a critic that I do enjoy, that I believe has good writing, that kind of like tells has my same kind of taste in film, and you know, and without no spoilers, of course. Yeah. Unless you like being told what the whole film's about and what happens. Of course, there are those people.
Yes, there are.
Yes. Which they're not invited to my home viewing.
No, they're not. Not allowed.
But no, yeah, so that's the route that I would normally go about, you know, that I would tell most people, most Christians, if they want to go and you know, how should they filter it through. That's one route. But I'm sure every, you know, most Christians have a way, if they're pretty sensitive, if they are very sensitive of what they watch, I'm sure that they've already had some sort of hedges that they go through, that they put themselves around to know, okay, what can I allow, what can I not allow, you know?
Yeah. Are there any particular critics you recommend to help with that, or even resources to help you like filter and I guess evaluate movies before you watch it as part of one's research?
Yeah, so I tend to use RottenTomatoes.com, and then I go to major film critics, and they'll show you what they gave it and stuff, and based on what I see that they write, like as a quick synopsis of how they felt, then I click on them and read their actual article. And then as far as in for like rating, as far as in like what's going on with it, as far as in violence, vulgarity and sex and all that stuff, then I go to imdb.com, and they have a parental guidance section that you can scroll down, and I click on that. But I know that there's a list of them that, like, if you type in like the movie like Forrest Gump and then do parental guidance, they'll give you a few websites that do that too, and you click on it, it'll tell you, hey, this happens to Jenny in the film, or there's a few scenes where you see Lieutenant Dan drinking, and things like that. So like it'll tell you such things, so you know what to pretty much expect in the film.
Yeah, that's good. Now, but what if people are just too lazy and they see a movie, a preview, it hooks them, marketing did its job,
Sure.
and they want to see the movie, and they're like, I don't feel like researching or making the time for it, because that happens, and people do that. Well, what would you recommend in that case? Or is it just like
I say they're that's a landmine that you're going into. That's fine. I think that's what most people do. I think for the most part, no one's gonna be as OCD as I am, like with that kind of stuff. But I think for the most part, I think most people, including Christians, I believe, just if they like something, they're gonna see it. But I think that's their own walk, in a sense. That's what they have to kind of answer to. In a sense, what you watch, what you view, it's your walk with God. And I wish I could say that there's an easy route to like tell people don't do that, but to some people that's not an issue. To others it is. I think it's important. I think we need to know what we read, what we watch and stuff, because it does shape what you think. It does shape who you are. We follow God from a book that we read, that has shaped us, just from stories that we read from a book called the Bible, right?
Right.
So just as easily, but much easier, film does shape your manner of thought, even if you don't think it does. It very much does.
Yeah. Let me. I have here a quote I wanted to read. Let me read this. It's actually by a film critic. I don't know if you know this guy or not. His name is James Combs.
Okay.
He wrote, "The term propaganda comes from the Latin propagare." I think I butchered that, denoting the ability to produce and spread fertile messages that, once sown, will germinate in large human cultures. And he goes on to say that, removed from its I always struggle with that word. That particular word connotation, propaganda may be viewed objectively as a form of communication that has practical and influential consequences and can sway relevant groups of people in order to achieve their purposes. Now that's very technical and very dictionary-like sounding, but he's getting at the issue of propaganda. And I mentioned this earlier. Movies are telling stories. They're stories, and within those stories are embedded. There's propaganda that sometimes is embedded in there, and I think sometimes we lack discernment in spotting and picking up and catching what that propaganda may be, what they're trying to feed us, or like you said, even through what they're portraying, how they're trying to shape our understanding of certain things, our values and whatnot. So what would you recommend as a Christian when you're going into the theater, when you're watching a particular film, apart from the research you do, if you do it, and hopefully you do. If not, it can be detrimental to your health. You're walking into a field of landmines. What would you recommend as it relates to like how to specifically discern the story itself? Like when you're already watching the movie, what to look for, what are you keeping an eye out for? And I'm not trying to make this over analytical, because people do just want to watch the movie and enjoy it and whatnot. But what discernment can we exercise in the midst of watching a film?
I think you need to know who the protagonist is in the story, where their perspective comes from. There's this film that I saw years back with Kevin Bacon. I believe it's called The Woodsman, and in it he plays a former pedophile who has served his time in jail. He just got out, and now it's like showing the life that he has to lead after he's done that. How he's an outcast from society based on his previous sins. and it's showing it from his perspective. So you have to know who the perspective comes from. Is that something that you want to, do you want to sympathize with someone who, can you sympathize with a former pedophile and try to humanize this person, which is the route that the actor was trying to go with. I think he actually either produced it or co-directed it with his wife, Kira Sedgwick and stuff. And that was like his thing. He wanted to show the perspective from someone that nobody wants to see in life. No one wants to hear the story of a former pedophile and feel bad for him and sympathize with him. So what I'm saying is you need to go to a film knowing whose perspective is it coming from, and is that okay with you? Is this, you may not agree with that perspective. Can you tolerate seeing this route? Can you discern from that? And like, are you okay with the message that the director's trying to give? Is that something that you wanna that you're okay partaking, being the one who helps in this matter? And you can't say that. I'm not saying that I'm sympathizing now from now on with former pedophiles, but I knew what I was watching going in that route, and I wanted to see, because it's a touchy subject. It's something that we feel that we as Christians believe that everyone's redeemable, but I think that's an outcast of people that many people feel are unredeemable in some sense. And and so I found that interesting that this actor wanted to go that route, and it was a pretty interesting film just to catch what his message was trying to say. But knowing that that I'm not rooting for that guy at all, and it's not like in the film he's not he's repentant of what he's done. It's kind of just the consequence of what's happened after the fact, and what the actual scarlet letter that he has to live with for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for you to know what the message is being given, and then if you're okay with it, then see the film, see what this perspective has, but know that there's many perspectives. For this is how he viewed himself.
Yeah.
But others may still not view him that way because they see another side of him, and that's all they can see, and that's their perspective.
Good stuff, man. Appreciate all that. Any last thoughts, comments, suggestions, recommendations you may want to share with us as we wrap this up?
Yeah. Well, nowadays, there's not a lot of good films that I've seen lately that have like really grabbed at me. So I've actually just been seeing a lot of TV series, so, but I do have a film that I did enjoy that might have came out in 2020, or if not late 2019, or like fall of 2019, and did resonate for me pretty much, and I thought that it was a really feel-good film, and the movie's called Yesterday. And so it's not new, but it's something that has lingered in a good way for me. And
Okay.
The premise of the story is this musician who just plays at local bars and things like that. He's British, and he's been doing this for quite a while, and he hasn't had much success. He also tends to work as a substitute teacher on the side. His best friend, his female best friend, is his manager. And in the beginning of the story, it seems like he's about to kind of give up because he's just had a string of bad luck being a musician. He loves music, but he feels like it's not happening. His career's not taking off. And in this fateful night, he's riding his bike, and all over the entire world, the whole world goes dark. There's no power. There's no type of electricity anywhere. And at that very same moment, he gets hit by a bus while riding his bicycle. He's got his his guitar with him. That shatters. He breaks a few bones. He knocks out his front tooth. He finds himself in the hospital, where his manager slash female best friend, tells him what happened, that the whole world went dark and he got into this accident. Well, something really strange happened during that whole moment, that whole weird strange moment. And what happened, what he slowly finds out happened, is that there's certain things that were completely erased from life that he remembers, but that no one else does. And one of the main things that is completely erased out of this world is the music of the Beatles and the Beatles themselves. Now, him being an avid musician, he remembers a lot of the Beatles music. And when he starts to find out that, man, I Google it, it's not there. None of their music, they're not even born. He decides to plagiarize all that music and make it his own, and he becomes a worldwide huge sensation. And from there, I would tell you more, but I don't want to ruin it. But it's a real good, heartfelt story. It's pretty witty. It's got great writing, good music. If you love the Beatles, you're gonna love them. It made me realize how many hits the Beatles had.
So many.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed the film. It's a nice film. That's one. And then as far as in TV series, which is not what you kind of brought up, but it's but a TV series, it's kind of like the thing that you mentioned with Roger Ebert, the quote, "A good film is not long enough," right? That's the first half of it.
Yep. And no bad movie is short enough.
Yeah. Well, that's the good thing about TV series. It's long enough to, if it's a good series, you're like, man, I don't want this to end.
Yeah.
So one that I recently saw that one of my friends turned me to is called Ted Lasso. And Ted Lasso, played by Jason Sudeikis, that's his name. He was formerly from SNL, and he's more of a comedian than but he does film. He plays a football coach for like a Division II college team who is given a chance to coach a professional soccer league in London, even though he's never taught soccer his whole life. He's never played soccer. He doesn't know the rules. And he's given this weird chance because there's something happening to that professional team. And his optimism, everything that's so unique about him, you get to find out who he is. People think that this is just going to be a huge bomb. Even the owner who brought him, she has a shadow mission as to why she brought this no name who doesn't know the sport. It's kind of like she's setting him up for failure, not because she knows him or because she has anything against him, but she has something against the actual team. But his whole attitude, his optimism, his integrity is highly contagious. And throughout the show, you start to see everyone who meets him is just blown away by him, and they're like, man, this guy is great. So really, really sweet show with a lot of heart to it. Played very well. He actually won the Golden Globe last week for his role. So good show, really good show. If you want to give it a shot, I think you'd be more than happy with it. Ted Lasso, and it's on Apple TV. Okay,
Ted Lasso. And the movie was called Yesterday?
Yesterday.
All right. Good, man. Yeah, thanks for those recommendations, man. I appreciate your time also and talking with us. And yeah, just for everyone listening, just remember, go enjoy a good film, but be careful, choose your movies wisely. Yes. And listen to the story, get the good out of it, but listen to the story with discernment. We need to listen with discernment, and just remember to check out some of these resources that Danny shared with us. Do some homework some research on your own. It will do your soul good to do so.
Yeah.
So please look into all that. And I want to thank my guest, Danny Guzman, for my good friend, Danny Guzman, for joining us. I appreciate your time, bro. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and for joining me this evening.
No, man, thank you so much. This was a real treat. I hope that I can do it again, and I can give you some more good films for you to check out and for your audience to check out.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll reach out to you. We'll talk some more later on, and then we'll set something up for some later episodes.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, bro.